Well, like I told you at the beginning, I'm really sad for him because on a personal level, I mean, I know I joke around about him being a friend, but he is a friend, and he's a really, really good guy. We all know him here at the network where he does an outstanding job for us. And he's the real deal in terms of his kindness, the kind of man, the kind of person that he is. It's not an act. He truly is that person. He's that guy. And I got a lot of love for him. And I just wish him nothing but the best. But in the same breath, we have to be real about what we saw. He never played the tight end position in his life before trying to do it on the NFL level. And it showed. He couldn't block. That was really, you got to be able to block at that tight end spot. And you saw people in the NFL tweeting about it because it was their way of highlighting, look, man, we're not trying to hate on the guy, but he wasn't qualified to do this job. As a tight end because he never did it before. You don't just come into the NFL and do something you never did, and especially if you had an 8-year layoff from the sport. And that's what, essentially he was trying to accomplish. So it's not a surprise that it ended up this way, although it's unfortunate. But I just hope that me personally, he's 34 years of age, Max. My sincere hope is that he comes back in this business and dedicates himself to just doing this because I think this dude is a star in this business. And I think that he do an incredible job of talking about sports, not just college football, but sports overall. I think that when he speaks, a lot of people would listen. And again, I'm very fond of him. He and I talk, from time to time, off the air and what have you. I got a lot of love for him, a lot of respect for him. And I wish him nothing but the best in his future endeavors.
I want to talk about something else that I haven't brought up yet, but it's been on my mind in these last few minutes, Stephen A., as it relates to Tim Tebow. When people talk about it, chasing your dreams, a lot of times we're focused on the result, the achievement of the dream. Life is are results important? Naturally. But we're all heading to the same place. And when you talk about human life, it ends at a certain point. That's the destination. Life is the process. And so a lot of the dream is the pursuit of the dream. Now, when we talk about, and you point out, look, he hasn't played this.
That's a great message, Max. That's a great message.
Appreciate it. When you talk about how he hasn't played in this much time, et cetera, and we talk about opportunities others didn't get, that's baked into this too. There is a right way to pursue your dreams, or at least a better way to pursue them. And he probably had a flawed pursuit in the sense that he didn't give himself the best chance to play tight end in the NFL, if that's what he wanted to do, because he stepped away for so long, wasn't practicing it the whole time. That's part of the pursuit. He was afforded certain opportunities, others were not, and he gave it his best shot, but had not given himself really the best chance to achieve the goal in the end, right? The journey itself was flawed, in my view, if what he really wanted to be was an NFL tight end or a minor league baseball player. He's so talented, and once he makes up his mind to do something so dedicated, he got farther than many would have gotten. And that includes the opportunities he was afforded that others weren't. But in the end, he didn't achieve the goals, and I want to point out, and of course we got love for Tim Tebow. He's great on the air. He was an excellent football player throughout his life. But I want to point out that we're so focused on the result, on the destination, that we ignore the process. And the process is what is actually most important. That's life.
Well,
it's a journey.
I completely agree with you. You're 1,000% correct, and I'm definitely appreciative of the message that you sent. But I'd also like to piggyback off of that, not to take away from it, but to add to it by telling people something they may not want to hear. But I've always held to this belief, and I have never deviated from it. Everybody believes, and everybody's good, particularly when we're talking to our young, about you can be whatever you want to be. That's not true. Sometimes you can't. Here's the message. All of us have a gift. At the end of the day, it's about discovering what your gift is and learning to want to do that. I wanted to be an NBA player. I couldn't shine those brothers' shoes. Period. No matter how bad I wanted it, wasn't happening, okay? It just so happens I could write a little bit. I could report. I learned a trade that allowed me to be connected to the world that I wanted to be a part of. So my passion for it allowed me the ability to be able to distinguish between a job and a career. When I give speeches, Max, I tell them a job is doing what you want to do. A job is doing what you have to do, and a career is doing what you want to do.
Right. You don't choose your profession. Your profession chooses you. But I would never discourage someone from pursuing their passion and their dreams as hard as they can and as best as they can and let the chips fall where they may.
Right. And another gem he gave guys is don't make decisions out of fear, because oftentimes we do that. So go for it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.